Alrighty, coming back at you, my friends. Hold on, let me turn that music down. Alrighty, coming back at you, my friends in Pasadena and around the world. This is your friendly neighborhood Rabbi John Carrier here on the air, meaning the internet, I guess. I don't know if that's air or if that's wires. There's Wi-Fi involved. That's cool. So we're going to get started with this new show that my friends in Pasadena have helped me put together. This is PJTC Presents the RabbiChat. This is episode number 1. We've done a couple of test-episodes. Is that a real word? I don't know. That sounds like a beverage, a test-episode. Something part of a radio, I guess. We're having our first episode here, official, I think, because we told people about it. So we're going to see how this goes. What you can do is join me in the chat, either in one of 3 places, at least 3 places that we're talking, is the site Twitch, which I highly recommend. That's my favorite streaming platform. You can join us at twitch.tv/Pasadena Jewish. Or you can join us on Facebook Live. We're multicasting this to Facebook Live or YouTube Live, either the Facebook Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center public Facebook page or our public YouTube site. So just go to YouTube, search for Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center. You'll find our YouTube page where we have all sorts of great videos, some short videos that we put out, some very long videos that we put out, the recordings of services here and there. But in any case, I'm really excited to be learning with you live today. Or you could find us, again, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. You do you. Right? We're a very liberal congregation. We're inter-platform denominational when it comes to Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube in any case. So join us that way. I'm going to fire up the multi-chat here so I can see where people are coming in from. We've got some folks on Twitch. My friends Triggers and Viv is here, says hi everyone. Nawa64 says shalom, which is Hebrew for aloha. And Nawa64 also says, so exciting to have more time with Rabbi John. No, that's nice. Triggers and Viv says, ditto. Just woke up from my nap. Love the volume, Rabbi. Glad that's working out for you. So let's see. Okay, can you hear my microphone okay? I'm going to turn down the mood music. I hope everybody likes Bossa Nova as much as I do. I think Bossa Nova is a good genre for our times, right? It's hard to be mad or anxious or scared when you're listening to Bossa Nova, in my opinion. We've also got some klezmer music. Stop booing me. You're out of the studio. You want to lock you in the other part of the studio. My wife and I are working at home with our 2 daughters who are out of school. We say that my wife works in the BR branch of the corporate compound, and I work in the branch LR of the corporate compound. But we are happy to be alive. We are happy to be safe. We are happy to be well provisioned. I'm looking at a giant box of Pringles over there, and some mac and cheese as well. We're in good shape. We got some water, bottled water. We got some tap water. We got a nice natural gas fireplace to keep us warm. Extra tank of propane just in case. You should always have an extra tank of propane, in my opinion. Just you never know when you're going to be grilling. So thank you for joining us. Now164 says Bossa Nova makes me want to dance. Me too. I don't have that many different camera angles, so I don't know if you'll see me dance today. So. Thanks for joining us here at Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center. I'm not physically in the temple right now. I'm spiritually in the temple right now. I've had the great privilege of, I'll say timing. I've had a few different jobs there, but I'll say I've been to Pasadena for about over a year now, and they've just asked me to keep coming back. Just keep coming back, John, and we'll keep the door open for you. Kind of. We've closed the door in many respects because of the COVID-19 global pandemic. This, I'll say, sparked the genesis, I like using that word, the genesis of this show. I've been live streaming for, I'm going to say a couple of years now. I've been on YouTube for going on 6 years. Done some podcasts. About 1.5 years, 2 years ago, I started doing live streaming on things like Facebook and then YouTube Live and then Twitch. And actually super duper comfortable with it. We'll see. It may be awkward maybe some burps and bips sometimes. But I love learning in this format. I love it when people chant with me. I love when people chant with me. That's true too, especially Fridays and Saturdays. But I love it when people chat with me. If you're watching this, Noah 64 says, Rabbi John, a man for the time. So, right, this has been crazy because I've been doing live streaming for a while and have kind of gotten used to it a little bit. And now everybody's doing the live streaming, and my heart goes out to the noobs in the house, spelled N00B. For everybody who's just jumping into this for the first time, if I can give you some advice, you should sit facing the window, not with your back to the window. Because then when you talk to people on Zoom or what have you, you look like you're interrogating them, or you look like the smoking man from X-Files, like old people can only see you in silhouette. If that's the kind of thing you're going for, if you want to be this intimidating secret agent kind of person, go right ahead. That's how you achieve that effect is talk to Zoom with your back to a window. If you want people to see your face, you should be facing the window. It's the greatest natural lighting that we have. I got a couple of, hold on a second. I'm going to fix my fill light over here. Short for Philip light. And so I've got a couple of lights in addition to some nice natural light here, which is nice. So that's important for all you new folks, whether you're now learning how to do all your business via teleconferencing software, or you are a teacher of some sort, a rabbi, a cantor, pastor. Get some good light on your face. Get it from a couple of different angles if you can. Just if you have one light on you, it gets all dark over here and it's a bit sinister. Again, if that's the effect you're going for, gegesund, as we say. But get some good light. Another thing is get a good microphone. If you're going to do live streaming, here's my setup. I've got a Shure M58 that is routed through the company's name is Zoom. No relation to the live streaming platform, I don't think. But the Zoom company makes this great recorder called the H6. It's not free by any stretch of the imagination. I've seen Weiss, but it's great as a preamp. So I've got a Shure M58 stage mic routed through a Zoom H6 recorder as a preamp. Got some great advice from a friend of mine, a cantor who is a mentor of mine named Ron Snow, also happens to be a professional voiceover artist. And so he gave me some good advice on this stuff. So also, teachers and rabbis out there, if you're live streaming, if you're learning how to teach online for the first time, good sound. This is my opinion, and verified anecdotally, if not scientifically. Good sound is more important than good video. Right? If you're trying to connect with people, teach them things, the sound quality is more important than the video quality. If you have good, consistent sound, not too many background noises, not too much echoing, that serves your students better than having a sharp picture and bad sound. People can actually tolerate a little fuzz, a little fog, a little lack of focus. But if you've got crackly sound, if you've got echoey sound, if you've got dryers going in the background, or the landscapers were outside earlier today while I was teaching a class. Sorry, just looking at the chat, some distressing things. My goodness gracious. So we'll get back to that in a second. If you got good sound, you're golden. Sound is more important than video. If you want good video, have some good light on your face, not at your back. And that's it. Like another good thing for sound is I heard there's an incredible rabbi was singing on the internet earlier live. Beautiful song, great teaching around the song. I'm like, that's dope. What you should do is next time sit in a room with some carpet or some curtains or something to absorb that echo, and that will serve you better. And this is true for people who are just joining a conference call on Zoom, for example. So I see Carla is in the house. Hello, Carla J. Nice to see you. Let's see. Triggers of Biv said, should we all introduce ourselves? So that's, I don't know if you know some of these folks. Some of these folks are great friends of mine. We've been learning online together for a while. Triggers of Biv has been joining me for, I don't know, a year or two on various platforms. Kay Dixie's in the house, says, I don't know how long I can stay today. Let's see. Pinor Organ Donor. I'm going to go ahead and block that dude right there. So everybody should know that, yes, we are on live, and I am quicker than anybody I know on the banhammer. All right, get that out of there. Let's see. Triggers and Bibb says she is Ruthie in the house. Let's see. Just send a text to Ruthie in case she has a break. Let's see. Nice Josh, I hope you're here. Monsta 28. Why are all these old folks getting super upset about Corona jokes? I don't know about that. So, there's people making Corona jokes. Look, people have to get through this a lot of different ways. Some people use humor. I use humor sometimes. Why are these old folks getting super upset about Corona jokes? Also, boy, okay, built like a gay priest. That's nice. Let's see. Hold on a second. Just going to take care of that. As we do more live stuff, I'm going to be recruiting moderators. So nice to see you all here. Mostly that junk is coming through Twitch. So Kay Dixie says, hi, Carla. Nice to see you. Carla says, hey, Kay, how are you? This is what I love about doing this live with the chat, is that it's not just me teaching stuff. But it's also people who are talking back at me, asking questions, saying hello. What I like even more is when people are talking to each other in the chat. So if you're on Facebook and you want to talk to each other, if you're on YouTube, you want to talk to each other, this is different from a classroom where, in a classroom, sometimes it's hard to teach a class and you got some of the kids are chit-chatting in the back of the room. And when I'm a teacher, that's, it's okay. I like teaching in a way that builds community. But sometimes if you're chit-chatting in the back of the room, it's hard to hear what's going on. Online, you guys can chit-chat however you like. And I actually enjoy it because you're making friends with each other. As Kay Dixie said, yay, the three amigas are in the house because we got Triggers and Viv. And also so we got all these folks are learning together. Carla J says, I was doing pretty well. My dog is very happy to have captives, lol. Right? Dogs are excited right now. I saw this great study of this on Facebook. Dogs are thrilled. We are home all the time. Isn't that nice? And the dog's just like, yeah, belly scratching all day. The cats are like, what are you doing in my house? I was planning a whole day of glowering at this sunbeam, and you are in my space. I don't know how I feel about this. Let's see. Carla J says her dog goes from person to person, demanding belly rubs. So that's nice. Triggers and Biff says mine is sick of me. Maybe there's, maybe some dogs are inner cats. I don't know about that. But so anyway, glad to join all of you here. I want to teach a little bit of Torah just to earn my paycheck. We are getting into the book of Leviticus. And I shared with some of my students in a different format earlier today. The book of Leviticus is a different kind of book. Right. This is so far we've had a lot of narrative. Right. The book of Genesis or Breshit in Hebrew has a couple of different things. It has what we call cosmology or cosmogony, sort of the theory of the beginning of the universe. It's got some. I'm going to say, what is it? Etiology, origin stories. It has the origin of rainbows, right? Rainbows were created as a reminder to God to not, destroy the earth like God did that time with the flood. The etiology in the same parsha of human diversity. Right, we had that whole Tower of Babel thing going on, and we were getting a little bit above, we're getting a little ambitious, getting a little chutzpahdik, trying to touch heaven with this tower. And so God said, 70 languages, now you all speak different languages, and you're not going to get anything done that way, at least until Duolingo comes along. So that explains human diversity. And then we have this sweeping family story going from Abraham on the one end to Joseph and Joseph's children on the other end over the course of, that's Abraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov, Yosef, and Ephraim and Menashe. 5 generations of family story in Sefer Breshit, in the book of Genesis. And then we get to a really great narrative section, also known as Shemot, or the book of Exodus. And in the book of Exodus, the story's a little tighter. It's only just like let's say a couple of generations really covering the book of Exodus. And most of it takes place over about, 80 years, from the, coming on the scene, we get the birth of Noah, or the birth of, Moshe or Moses. And it talks about the first 80 years of his life. That's that's a full life, 80 years, I'll say. I know a lot of 9-year-olds these days. I think we've had amazing advances in modern science, and I think people in California are especially well preserved, like dried fish, when you get that much sunshine, it's just and the preservative qualities of smog too. I think it's like smoking beef jerky. People live a long time. Moses had lived 80 years before he started his first, real job that he's most famous for. And we have that story that includes the redemption of slaves from Egypt. We have the revelation of the Ten Commandments and the construction of the Mishkan, this portable tabernacle. Big sweeping story. Several movies made about this. And then Leviticus. Then Sefer Vayikra. And Sefer Vayikra, it's like, imagine if you had Star Wars A New Hope followed by the even more exciting Empire Strikes Back, and then instead of having, Return of the Jedi, you had Hoyle's Book of Card Game Rules. Right? Instead of having another sweeping narrative with action and heroes and villains, you had an instructional video on industrial butchering. That's a little bit like, and it has other fine qualities, but that's a little bit the tone of the book of Leviticus. It's like rules, slaughter, blood, rules. Now, in the middle of it, it gets pretty good, I'm going to say. I don't want to spoil it for you. We will talk about this when it comes around. In the middle of it, we have the what's called the Holiness Code, especially the core in Parshat Kedoshim. You get into like chapter 19, that's the good stuff. That is the gold mine within Leviticus. You just have to get through 18 chapters first, and the 18th is especially, I don't really care for that one. But then you get into chapter 19, and you are golden. So, Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center, it says, "Hi, Rabbi Carrier, checking in to see how things are going. Yes, our dogs are loving this. Nice to see you. P.S. This is Lori in the PJTC feed. Good to see you, Lori. I'm glad this is all working out." We got Triggers and Viv, we got Kay Dixie, we've got Carla J, and Lori is in the house. Nice to see you, Lori. Glad all the pipes are connected. Thanks for talking about this for us. You're taking a little brief interlude. So back to the book of Leviticus. The first, I'm going to say, big chunk of it, there's a lot of rules, and some of it's, can I say this? Some of it's boring. I didn't mean to be the one to tell you this. But some of it just lays out stuff like, okay, if you got this skin condition, you have to wait outside the camp for 7 weeks or whatever it is, 7 days. And then you come back and they check again. There's quarantines. There's communicable diseases. A lot of hand washing. A lot of hand washing in the book of Leviticus. This may be Sefer Vayikra's best season, I'll say, because now more than ever, people are paying attention to hand washing, sequestration, purity laws, things like that. But I just want to call out one thing that it teaches this week, and that is here in Parshat Vayikra, in the very first section of the book of Leviticus. First, it starts talking about, okay, here's how to sacrifice an animal. Here's how to sacrifice a bull. You're doing these for various reasons, whether you're giving thanks for your prosperity, or you are giving an offering with the intention of creating peace in the world, or if you're giving an offering making up for something you did wrong. That happens too. And there's specifically in chapter 4 of Leviticus, it talks about these, these sin offerings, or these offerings that you make when you break one of the laws that God gave us back in Exodus. But it was an accident, right? It was total boo-boo, total party foul. It's specifically the lotases, the negative commandments, something God said, "Thou shalt not," and then you went and shouted it. Right. Then you went and did that thing. If you did it on purpose, that's frowned upon, right? That could be, you could get punished for that, ranging from, karet or excision, or, what do you call it? Shunning, being kicked out of town, to, let's say, more capital consequences, right? Death. But if you didn't do it on purpose, you don't get killed or kicked out of town for that, right? It was a mistake. Everybody acknowledges it was a mistake. If you did this thing that you weren't supposed to do, and either you did it because you didn't know it was forbidden, or you just slipped on the cord of the carpet and fell into, eating a ham sandwich or something. If you did that thing that you weren't supposed to do, and it was by accident, or that you didn't know it was wrong when you did it, here's the thing. You still get punished. Right? You're not off scot-free, but you don't get killed. The punishment instead is, in this case, you sort of sacrifice an animal to make up for what you did. And this does a few things. This provides, protein for the priestly class and some other people as well. But it also is this kind of educational penalty, if you will. And I was going over this with a child that I was studying with for his bar mitzvah celebration, and we noticed that he's, you might think that if you do something by mistake, getting punished is really unfair. And especially they're talking about, okay, you got to sacrifice a goat or maybe even a cow, specifically a bull, which, for various agronomic reasons tend to be way more expensive than the lady cows. That's not cheap. That is a pretty severe consequence. It says in Leviticus, right in the beginning of chapter 4, it says, okay, if a priest makes a mistake like this by accident, the priest being responsible for all the other people in the community, then they have to sacrifice a bull. And a couple of interesting ideas there. Once, for one thing, it's not just the priest because the priest is the priest. It's because the priest is also a representative of the community in holy spaces, has the responsibility for the whole community. And so errors have bigger consequences. And so to make up for that, they've got to pay a pretty significant fine. Me and my friend Sam looked this up. You know what a bull goes for these days? And again, I'm not a farmer. Prices may vary. I just looked up the best number I could. Something like $5,000. If you wanted to go out and buy a bull, and I don't even know if it's like a good bull, there's probably like $20,000 bulls. There's probably like some like $2,000 bulls, but this is a not insignificant thing. And so my friend, my student, and I were reasoning together and said, okay, why would you have such a severe consequence for making a mistake completely by accident? And my student said, "Well, he's not going to do that again, is he? if you have to come up with a $5,000 every time you have an oops, you may have another oops, but it's not going to be that oops." So, and he told me this story of he was going to a baseball game, and it was like a serious game. It was a beginning of a playoff series, and he was late. Because he was, he didn't mean to be late, but he was kind of goofing off, and sort of inevitably he wound up being late. And his coach said, you can't play, I don't think it was just that game. I think it was like the rest of that playoff series. And that was a pretty severe consequence, which really hurt at the time, felt terribly unfair, right? Especially if you love your team and you love playing. It's like, okay, make me bat second instead of first, but to be taken out of the whole series. And I said, well, what was the consequence of that, right? That's a pretty steep penalty. And he said, you better believe I was much more on time for games after that, right? So I think this is what Leviticus is trying to teach us is, yes, we have penalties even when we don't do things on purpose, but that's so that we can grow, right? That's so that we can get better at things that we're responsible for. Right. I mean, you'll get a speeding ticket whether you know what the speed limit is or not. If you're going 55 miles an hour down Glen Oaks Boulevard in front of a school, but you will get a speeding ticket. I've heard. Whether you knew what the speed limit was, whether you knew that speed limits existed, you still get that speeding ticket. But you're going to think twice about doing that dangerous thing again. So just going to check the chat. Trig apologizes. She needs to go. That's quite all right. Really glad all of you are here who are here today. And I just want to teach a little bit of Torah. Got to earn my rabbi paycheck, as it were. That's what one of my teachers, Rabbi Joel Rembaum, who's Rabbi Emeritus at Temple Beth Am in Los Angeles, asked his class, like, what is a rabbi? what's your deal? What's your job? What's your responsibility? And he says, at the end of the day, a rabbi is a master teacher of Torah, v'zehu, like, which is Hebrew for, and that's it, right? If you are teaching a Torah, you are fulfilling your rabbinic responsibility. If you are just trying to tell people what to do and you're not teaching Torah, then you're just bossy, I suppose. So always be teaching some Torah. This show, the idea behind it is so that we can check in together on a daily basis, if that's the sort of thing that you're into. And my commitment to you is that just as best I can, bandwidth, not, as God willing, as my friend Barney Alav Shalom said, I'll be here if the creek don't rise too high. The intention, the commitment is that Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Pacific time, I will be here on the Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center Facebook page, public Facebook page, our YouTube channel live, and here's my favorite part, twitch.tv/Pasadena Jewish. So if you don't know what Twitch is and you have kids, ask them. The reason I love Twitch so much is this was a platform that was originally dedicated and is still predominantly dedicated to live streaming video games. And some adults who are not like me and not super into video games wonder, like, what is the point of people live streaming video games for other people to see watching them play? I think it was Jimmy Kimmel who said, this idea of watching other people play video games is like standing at the window of a restaurant watching somebody else eat your food. Right? There's no joy in that whatsoever. To which I would answer, have you ever watched sports? If you've ever watched sports, if you've ever watched somebody play a game that you're not playing and enjoyed that experience, that's a little why people like watching other people play video games, especially, I'm going to say if you're watching sports, you're probably watching people who are better at the game than you, right? If you are not a pro baseball player and you're watching the Dodgers, you're probably watching people who are better at baseball than you are, and you enjoy that. If I watch people who are exactly as good as me at baseball, that would be possibly hilarious, but it's not the same experience. And so there, the kids these days, and by kids, I mean people my age and older and way younger, play video games online, and they stream that to folks, and they comment on it. They may have their face in a little box and their voice going through. And so that requires some really great technology, some really great bandwidth. And what I found, this is another lesson for all the rabbis who are streaming right now, Twitch is my number one favorite platform for live streaming video, and I use a piece of software that allows me to stream it through Facebook Live and YouTube Live, which, in my opinion, works better than the native platforms of Facebook Live and YouTube Live. So that's why I stream on Twitch. If you want to get involved in the Twitch, some cool things can happen. As we get more people watching on Twitch, we could do things like subscribe to the Twitch channel, throw some cheer in the Twitch channel, various things that you can't do on Facebook or YouTube that are fun to do and also support this effort. So for Pasadena to produce this, for me to produce this, takes some dollar bills. It takes some specialized software and equipment and things like that. So whatever, I'm not shaking the can right now because we really don't have a way to collect the money from you. But I'll say, in the future, this might be something you want to support, a little bit like public television, if as it were, with more religious content, I'll say. So really glad people can join me in this way. I'm going to be here every day at about 3 o'clock Pacific time. We're going to go for half an hour, maybe longer, depending on what kind of questions we get. So I wanted to teach some Torah today. I wanted to throw it open to people. If you have a question for me or a question for, let's say, any rabbi, go ahead and type that in the chat right now. You could do that on Twitch. You could do that on Facebook. You could do that on YouTube. And I would be delighted to answer those questions, not by typing, but by talking with my face. So I'm going to just pause here for a second, maybe a little bossa nova music to let that out. Really glad people are joining me. I've got my friends Triggers and Viv. I've got my friend Kay Dixie. Saw Carla J here a minute ago. Saw Lori. Incredible incredible communications person for PJTC. I'm sure when Lori came on board, she wasn't expecting this kind of environment in which to be working for a synagogue. I don't think anybody was. We've got families that are having to postpone, delay, rejigger B'nai Mitzvah celebrations. That's bat mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs. And we have to have this conversation. Like, when we started planning for this stuff months ago or years ago, nobody had this in mind. Literally no one knew that we would be in the midst of a global novel virus pandemic when your parsha came up. So, on the one hand this is no fun. People have been preparing for months or sometimes years to read Torah, to lead prayers, to teach Torah, to celebrate with their families, to celebrate with their friends, and boom. Right, then this happens. And now we're doing the best we can in our community to rearrange those things in safe ways. Some families are electing to, if they can, we'll just do it same parsha next year. Already done all this learning on this parsha. If next year the same weekend is free, we'll do it then. Some families are electing to do, say, a small private celebration at home and then live stream it to friends and family who want to watch it, and then maybe they have the in-person party a little bit later on. K. Dixie says, BTW, like the background music because it's subtle and allows us to hear your message. Thanks for that. I like any kind of feedback people can give me on the tachlis, the details, the sound quality, the picture quality, my taste in music. If you have ideas about that, go right ahead. But I like to keep things a little bit festive. I think we could all use a little bossa nova in our lives right now. Great couple of questions here from Nawa64 coming in from Colorado. Rabbi, prayers at home. We can have a virtual minyan for communal prayers. What about prayers, shachrit, etc. at home with family? Is there an abbreviated version for that? And so the answer is yes. And I have to find it for you in the sense that this was a question that sort of went around within my rabbinic circles that Rabbi Dorf taught us, kind of an abbreviated matbeh or an abbreviated program for shachrit. What's sort of the minimum that you want to be doing if you're praying at home, right? If you only have a few minutes, you can't say all the prayers, you can only say a few of them. What are those things? There's I really like. For example, Birchot HaShachar, that sort of series of blessings of gratitude we say upon awakening. Some basics in Psukei Zimra, the kind of preparatory songs like Baruch Shemar in the beginning. I like Ashrei, that's kind of a collection of psalms, Ashrei Yeshvei V'techa, etc. And then always wind up with Psalm 150. I say 100 because it's on page 100 in my prayer book. But Psalm 150, always cap it off with that. There's a teaching that if you say a couple of psalms and you end with Psalm 150, which is the last psalm in the book of Psalms, it's as if you've read the entire book of Psalms. So take those bonuses where you could get them. You should say the blessings around the Shema. Like if you're just with a few people at home, you may want to opt out of Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu, that beginning of those prayers of Shachrit, this call to prayer that's done in the imperative plural. It's like, y'all bless, if I can translate that into Texan. That is something we typically say with a minyan. Rabbinic authorities these days are much more flexible and forgiving when it comes to those things you say with a minyan. You don't really do Baruch Hu if it's just you by yourself, right? You're calling yourself to prayer, and the plural is kind of weird. But just most other prayers you can say. There's if you can skip the Baruch Hu, but you'll say that first prayer talking about light, Yotzer Or, right? That first prayer blessing God for giving us light. And then that second one that often starts with a Hava Rabbah is a blessing God for God's love of God's people. And then there's the Shema, very popular. People say that by themselves. People say that all the time. There's the Shema, the three passages after the Shema, which are quotations from the Torah. And then there's the blessings after the Shema. In the morning, there's one blessing after the Shema. In the evening, there's two blessings after the Shema. In the morning, it's Ga'al Yisrael. It's like we're blessing God as the Redeemer of the people Israel. In the evening, we also add to that what's called the Hashkivenu, like we bless God who keeps us safe, who lets us lie down in peace and wake up again in peace, which is a nice blessing to say right before you lie down and you want a little bit of peace in your life. The Amidah, always an acceptable thing to say by yourself or with your family at home. Often the custom is, if you don't have a minyan, to daven or pray the whole thing silently. If you have a group of people, ideally in a minyan, but again, Zoom and flexibility and things like that. With a group, you might sing the first couple of pages out loud, like the first two blessings. The Avot and the Gvurot blessings, and the Kedusha you really only say with a minyan. But you can say the whole thing, maybe minus the Kedusha, by yourself or with your family. And if you have a minyan, whether that's an in-person minyan or a Zoom minyan, you can do the Kedusha as well. Hey, Ruthie's in the house. Good to see you, Ruthie. Good afternoon. Ruthie Honey's coming in. She's one of our essential workers in this economy right now. So big ups. High five to Ruthie. So prayer shakri at home with the family. There's certain things like don't feel like you have to read the whole prayer book. The prayer book is usually an anthology of everything you might conceivably want to pray. But if you stick to a few of the Psalms and Pesukei de Zimra, if you go through Shachrit and the Amidah pretty much in their entirety, and then there are other places where things are pretty flexible. You should conclude with Aleinu is a good concluding prayer. And if you're in mourning, there's Kaddish. And again, we're having some open-mindedness now about whether you say Kaddish with it has to be an in-person physical minyan or a minyan over Zoom. I always tell people, sometimes people ask me, they're like, I can't possibly be with a minyan. Am I allowed to say Kaddish for a loved one? And I always answer that with, say Kaddish. You should try to find a minyan. You should try to find a group of people. If it's not possible, I don't tell people how to suffer, right? If saying Kaddish gives you some solace in a difficult time and you can't find anybody to say it with, go ahead and say Kaddish. That's my opinion. People could disagree with me about that. It happens all the time. So good to see everybody. Kay Dixie said, need to go soon. We'll return tomorrow. Thanks for the learning opportunity. Really great question about Jewish prayer at home. So I just talked about the morning prayers. Again, when you get into the afternoon prayers, the core of it with afternoon prayers, I'll say is you start with Ashrei, Yoshrei Veitecha, and you do the Amidah. You end with Aleinu, bada bing. That's a soivis. And then in the evening, it's very much like the morning. You don't have the preliminary warm-up so much on a weeknight, but make sure you're saying the Shema and the blessings around it, and the Amidah, conclude with Aleinu. That's a service. And then I'll say one more thing about that. If you don't know those prayers, if you don't have those prayers mastered, I always lean on Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. You should talk to God like you talk to a friend. If that's your prayer, that's a great prayer, right? Whatever is in your heart to say to God, say it to God like you're talking to a close friend. And when I say close friend, I mean the friend that knows everything about you. The friend who is not surprised by those things about which you are most embarrassed, and they're still friends with you, right? The kind of friend where if you're mad at them, you can yell at them, and they're still friends with you afterwards, right? Because they know you needed to let that out. They're like, okay, I'm going to be here when you settle down, buddy. But just, you said your thing. That's cool. Feel better. All right, let's move on. Those are all within the realm of acceptable prayers, whether you're by yourself, with your family, in a community. Let's see. We got Vit Yermalowitz. Nice to say here. Technical feedback, YT stream versus Twitch. YouTube is ahead of Twitch, which is around a 3 to 4 second delay. I'm going to bet that's why Twitch, in my mind, always looks better because it's probably got a tighter buffer on there. Great technical feedback from Vit Yermalowitz. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to geek out here from time to time. I wouldn't wish the virus on anybody. I wouldn't wish this lockdown situation we're in, the economic consequences that are going to occur. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I will say, I feel really native teaching in a digital way, so I'm glad that I wish we didn't have the situation. Glad that we can take advantage of this way to learn together, if that kind of balance makes sense for you. So we're about to wrap it up here for today. If you have any good questions, make sure you tune in tomorrow at 3 o'clock p.m. Pacific time, as fast as I could. So if anybody out there wants to be a mod and you can commit to hanging out with us at 3 o'clock every weekday, or any particular weekday you want to mod for us, that's cool too. I'll set you up so that, when jokers come in, I always say the safest thing for Jews to do, like the people we had a lot of anti-Semitic violence and nastiness over like December, January of this year. And people were asking me how to deal with that. I say the thing that makes us safest is us, is Jews and Jew curious people and people who are part of the Jewish family, whatever that means to you. Do your thing with love, with enthusiasm in public. Don't press that spirit down. Let people see that you are a living, breathing human being with a heartbeat who loves your children just as much as they love theirs, and do that in public. That actually helps people understand us and know us better, and that helps us be safer. Online, when we open it up to the public like this, we are going to get some jokers. We are going to get some nasty folks. They exist on the internet. If you don't believe me, read Twitter ever. So that's all I'll say. But that's going to happen, and we're going to deal with it, because what I would not want to do is close down these live conversation opportunities, because I found over time that the conversations that happen here when we live stream together, people coming who are dedicated to the community or dedicated to the learning that we do, when those conversations happen, it is amazing. I love how people in this chat, and so far I know just about everybody who showed up today. We're starting with friends. That's cool. I've seen this community develop into people who are loving and supporting toward one another, and that's exactly what we need right now. So I'm going to thank my friends, Nawa64, Ruthie Honey, Vit Yermalowitz, Carla J, K Dixie, let's see, Triggers and Viv was here earlier. I'm going to thank all my friends who showed up today to make this exciting. I'm glad you guys like the background music. And if you have any other kind of feedback, please shoot me a message or comment here in the chat. If you're watching this in a recording later, you can still chat in the comments on either YouTube or on Facebook. And I'd be excited to continue to develop this show with your help. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. This has been your friendly neighborhood Citizens and heroes everywhere. Peace.